Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me in the record room today. My name is Doug if you're new here. I do seem to have got quite a few new subscribers since my last video. Thank you. Welcome to the channel, all about sharing music from my collection with you, the viewers, particularly from the reggae genre. I'm kind of struggling to get my video making mojo back on track, flowing again. It's been kind of a wet, dreary start to fall, as it usually is here in British Columbia, Canada. Very beautiful outside with the leaves changing color, but kind of damp and gloomy. Got a bit of sun peeking through the clouds today, so I thought I would take advantage of a bit more light than usual in the record room, do a bit of filming. It's been kind of a sad time for us as well. We had to say goodbye to a family member. Our 12-year-old dog Quinn passed away. We had been noticing he hadn't been feeling well for a couple of weeks. Finally took him down to the vet where they found cancer in various places all through his chest. Happened very suddenly. We picked him out as a puppy, a lot of memories associated with him, so that has been tough. We kind of knew, given his age, it was coming at some point, but still a bit of a blow. But on to some records, either new to the collection or that I've been listening to recently. Stay tuned. Last time I did a new arrivals and listens type video, I was showing a batch of recent reissues from that most illustrious of Jamaican record labels, Studio One, now based in the United States. And I just received another one this week, brand new, hot off the presses for 2023. It's one I've been after on vinyl for my collection for many years. I've only ever had a CDR version of it. The closest I've ever come to finding a used copy was a record fair in town here one year. A friend of mine had a table and was able to score a beautiful UK original from one of the other dealers, but I've never come across a copy. It is Alton Ellis's Sings Rock and Soul, originally issued in Jamaica circa 1967, the height of the rocksteady period from 1966 to 1968, back in print again on translucent red vinyl. Absolute class. If you're unfamiliar with Alton Nehemiah Ellis, one of the unquestionably greatest voices in Jamaican music, doesn't sound quite like anyone else, a gifted singer-songwriter who also had a facility for doing cover versions that would rival the originals. Nothing he sang ever sounded phoned in, always poured emotion into every lyric, every song he recorded. He was born and raised in Trenchtown, Kingston, Jamaica, on 5th Street. Started out as a dancer originally, winning contests such as the ones held on the famed Ver John's Opportunity Hour, before forming a singing duo with another young man named Eddie Perkins. As Alton and Eddie, they would be present at some of the very first commercial recording sessions held by Coxsone Dodd, founder of Studio One, before he'd even started Studio One proper. The first commercial recording sessions meant to release records to the public, and Muriel by Alton and Eddie, recorded circa 1959, 1960, would be one of the very earliest Studio One hits. But after that, Eddie Perkins would emigrate to the US, leaving Alton to continue on himself. He would do duets with other singers such as Phyllis Dillon and Alton's own sister Hortense Ellis, a talented singer in her own right who had a long career of her own. Alton would also form the Flames vocal group to back himself up, which included Winston Jarrett, who would later take over the group and rename it the Righteous Flames. By 1966, though, the beat had changed from ska into rocksteady, heavily soul-influenced, and Alton Ellis truly started to come into his own as a major star with songs such as Get Ready, Do Rock Steady, one of the first songs released to actually mention the new style on record, earning him the name of the Godfather of Rocksteady. He's also sometimes called Mr. Soul of Jamaica. He would record for a variety of producers, including Duke Reid at his Treasure Isle studio, Duke Reid coming to the forefront during the Rocksteady period, where Alton Ellis would take umbrage with the Rude Boys, who were causing havoc, mayhem, wrecking violence at dances around the city of Kingston, around the island. He would issue a series of stern warnings for them to change their ways, stick to lawful behavior on songs such as Dance Crasher, Cry Tough, The Preacher, and other songs. But the fallout from recording these songs, earning the ire of the Rude Boys, meant that it was maybe wise for Alton to change his subject matter, maybe even get out of town, leave the island for a while. To that end, he rejoined Cox and Dodd, who had by now formed the Studio One label. He would tour the UK in 1967 with Studio One house band The Soul Vendors. Soul Vendors on tour, capturing that tour on record. This is one of the ones I was showing in that previous video. The Soul Vendors on tour, including Alton Ellis. Alton would then begin recording a series of hits for Studio One that was result in the Sings Rock and Soul album being released, collecting them. The Sings Rock and Soul refers to some of the cover versions chosen, including Procol Harum's Whiter Shade of Pale and Massachusetts by the Bee Gees, covering the rock side of things. There's also covers of songs by Johnny Taylor, I believe, on here. But it's the original songs by Alton Ellis that really make this an essential part of the Studio One canon. If he just recorded the first song on side one alone, I'm Just a Guy, Alton Ellis's name would already be a legend. That song, the rhythm track of it, would be versioned over and over again over the years. The song itself covered, it would give rise over a decade later to another massive hit for Studio One, Michigan and Smiley's Rub-a-Dub Style. If that's not enough, Let Him Try, Mad Mad, Never Love Again, all major hits for Alton Ellis, the rhythm tracks of which would be reused countless times over the years. Another massive hit, I'm Still in Love with You, was the original that would be covered later for the Joe Gibbs record label about a decade later, and would then be DJ'd over by Althea and Donna as Uptown Top Ranking, becoming a smash hit. But an essential classic from Studio One, and full stop classic from the man Alton Ellis.
In
Ellis and the rhythms of some of his big hits that would be reused, recycled time and time again over the years by other producers for different artists. The one that underpins Alton's hit, I'm Just a Guy, also known as the rub-a-dub style rhythm, appears again on this 1982 LP by dancehall singer Sammy Dread as Today, which kicks off side 2. Sammy Dread, Stuart Farquharson, one of the very earliest dancehall singers who moved away from some of the rigidly perfected harmonies of earlier eras to incorporate a more relaxed, improvisatory style to his vocals. He had been working as a forklift operator on the Kingston waterfront while performing on sound systems. He was based out of the Greenwich Farm area of Kingston, got his first start in recording around 1978 for producer Errol Don Mace and his Roots Tradition label, for whom Sammy Dread recorded African Girl. But his career kicked into high gear by the turn of the decade when he ended up at Channel 1 Studio. There he recorded a song called M16. Police a fire M16, soldier a shoot AK-47, bad boy a fire SLR, kind of commenting on the hardware on the Jamaican streets at the time, the tensions going on. Full LP, Roadblock, would appear in 1982, produced by Channel 1 studio in-house engineer Solji, aka Anthony Hamilton. He'd been in the Jamaican military, which is how he acquired the nickname Solji or Soldier, and the cover showing Sammy Dread bursting through a police roadblock on his motorcycle, spliff in mouth, while the police are firing fruitlessly at him. Roadblock, the song itself, the title track, lyrically somewhat inspired by Bob Marley's 3 O'Clock Roadblock, commenting on the omnipresent checkpoints around Kingston, around the island in those very dangerous and violent times, and the risks of being caught with a spliff of marijuana. Classic by Sammy Dread, with his very emotive, swooping, soaring vocals, somewhat reminiscent of another singer, Michael Prophet, and his what's sometimes called crying style, very emotional. Sammy Dread, some very roots-oriented songs on here, such as In a Man's Heart, A Love We Deal With, If You Deal With War, You Better Stay Far, Jog Guide, as well as more gently romantic songs like Dreadlocks Queen and Jenny. Classic from the early dance hall era. I have 2 copies of this I've acquired over the years. It's a later repress on Channel 1. It's obviously much later. It's got a barcode, and then sometime after that I acquired a much earlier pressing X sound system copy from the Lord Shelley's Sound, a local sound system in my area, who's kind of marked up the cover there, but this is a much older press on the Hitbound label, Channel 1 in-house label. Sammy Dread with Roadblock. Roots Radix Band in full effect, 1982.
They call me Sammy, they call me Sammy, and me no walk. People pop in a perfume song, and me no walk. People pop in a roadblock song. Why?
Had some Johnny Clarke on the turntable recently, one of my very favorite reggae singers who has a clear, pure tone and phrasing to his voice that cuts straight to the listener's soul. It sounds like he's singing directly to you, like a friend, whether he's tackling blazing roots anthems or more romantic themed songs. He was equally adept at both. He had been jockeying around the studios in Kingston in the late 1960s, early 1970s, trying to get a break, got nicknamed the Studio Idler. He would hang around so much, doing errands, picking up food for the singers and the musicians. He'd recorded a couple of sides for producer Rupie Edwards, including Everyday Wondering, something of a minor hit, but his big break came with producer Bunny Lee, who put Johnny Clarke on a song that had been written by Earl Zero called None Shall Escape the Judgment, a smash hit that set Johnny Clarke on the road to superstardom, would record a prolific series of sides and LPs for Bunny Lee over the next several years, the first of which was None Shall Escape, titled after that big hit, Johnny Clarke. This is a Jamaican pressing on Total Sounds and includes a mix of roots anthems in the flying cymbals style that Bunny Lee struck upon with his band The Aggravators, as well as more easygoing romantic themed material, some well-chosen cover versions. Johnny Clarke equally adept at originals and covers. And then just today, as a torrential downpour came down, put on this one that came out in 2020, I believe, a compilation from the Patat Records crew out of Paris, France, strictly reggae music we play, Johnny Clarke, from a slightly later period, 1976 to 1985, culling together singles and non-studio LP tracks. Johnny Clarke recorded primarily for Rodwell Sinclair, a producer also known as Blackbeard, brother of DJ and producer Tapazuki, and not to be confused with Dennis Bovell over in the UK, also sometimes known as Blackbeard. This is the Jamaican Blackbeard, and this finds Johnny again in his prime, updating one of his early hits for Rupie Edwards, Everyday Wondering, strictly reggae music we play, the title track itself, even name-checking himself. One of the songs on here, Apple of My Eye, updating the Paragon's Danger in Your Eyes. I actually had that on 12-inch single for many years. When I first got into vinyl collecting again, walked into one of the shops. They had a small row of reggae 12-inch singles on the counter, some very cheap, 99 cents, up to about $8 or $9, I think, at the higher end. And one of them was High Power label out of the UK, Johnny Clarke with Apple of My Eye, later included many years later on that compilation. That's High Power label is by artist and producer General Lee, but it is the Rodwell Blackbeard Sinclair production. Actually helped out General Lee, owner of this High Power label, a couple of years back. He was asking me for some LP scans for some reissue projects he was doing. Johnny Clarke, one of the great reggae singers, definite favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. None shall escape the judgment in this time. These words I sing to all mankind. None shall escape the judgment in this time. These words I sing to all mankind. We are play the reggae music. 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 We are play. Musical disc of the day, coming in a Johnny Clarke style. This ya one ya wicked and wild. People shout, people hooray, hooray, 'cause they want to hear what I say.
That should do it for today, guys. Don't want this one to get too long. Coming up next, you should be seeing the third and final part of my look at reggae DJ Big Youth. And of course, I will have some more videos following that. Thanks to everybody for watching. Cheers and take care.